Well, hello everyone. Let's get into more of the devastating news coming out of Hawaii, Maui, and the aftermath following the Lahaina fires and the absolute devastation that has hit this region. The Maui emergency chief has resigned following criticisms of the wildfire response. The head of the Maui Emergency Management Agency resigned his post on Thursday in the wake of significant criticism for his agency's response to the Lahaina fire, which claimed the lives of at least 111 people, the deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than a century. Maui County officials said in a news release that MEMA Administrator Herman Andaya has resigned effective immediately due to health reasons. Given the gravity of the crisis we are facing, my team and I will be placing someone in this key position as quickly as possible, and I look forward to making that announcement soon, said the mayor. Now, it's important to note that he is resigning from his position on Thursday, August 17th, and just so happens that this effective immediately due to health reasons resignation is following this. Maui official defends his decision not to activate sirens amid wildfires, saying, "I do not regret it." Now, in the very last video that I posted talking about the fires in Lahaina and Maui, one of the biggest things that the residents were talking about was that they did not hear any sirens. So because of the fact that so many fires have been going on in the area over the last several years, people were not doing anything because they've been kind of used to seeing the smoke and stuff like that, and they were waiting for instruction. They were waiting for something to tell them this is a more urgent matter requiring you to move and get out. And so many people in different videos have said there were no sirens. So people were waiting for sirens to become apparent. But the sole official in Maui, now how there's one person that's responsible for all of this is kind of baffling, but a sole official in Maui is tasked with deciding when to pull warning signs that sound out on Hawaii's second largest island during emergencies. In the case of blazing wildfires that leveled the historic town of Lahaina and left over 100 dead last week, that official chose to not sound the alarms, a decision he is now defending, saying, "I do not regret not sounding the sirens." Pretty incredible for an official to not even say, based on the information that we had, this is what we thought would be the best thing, but obviously it wasn't. Just an absolute comment of, "I do not regret not sounding the alarms." And he said, "The public is trained to seek higher ground in the event that sirens are sounded," adding that sirens are primarily used to warn of tsunamis, which is why almost all of them are found on the coastline. "Had we sounded the alarms that night, we were afraid that people would have gone mountainside. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. And if it was the case, they would have gone into the fire." I should also note that there are no sirens on Mauka or the mountainside where the fire was spreading down. So even if we had sounded the alarms, it would not have saved those people on the mountainside. And it continues saying, "There are 80 outdoor sirens on the island that sat silent as people fled for their lives. According to the state's government website, they can be used for a variety of natural and human-caused events, including wildfires." So there we go. It includes wildfires. And I saw in a video from 2-Bit Da Vinci, I will link the video down in the description box. He goes into a lot of the science aspect of the fire and what was going on that day, as well as a lot of the history of the land of Maui, Hawaii, and a lot of different things that I found really informational. So I highly recommend people check that video out. But one of the things that he talked about in that video is the amount of sirens that are on the island. There's, like it says here, there's over 80 outdoor sirens. And apparently the siren system that exists in Hawaii is like one of the most top-notch siren systems that one could have. And people are used to hearing those sirens. And the concerns now have been mounting over why they never went off, with many Maui residents saying more people could have been saved if they had time to escape with the sirens as warning. When you have a state-of-the-art alarm system that involves sirens and people can deduce with their eyes and senses and see that, oh, it's a fire and oh, we need to be doing what we need to do to get out of here and get safe, people are going to likely know what they need to be doing. So when the Maui residents are saying themselves that they feel that both they were expecting the warning as well as that had they been given the warning that more people could have been saved, kind of makes you wonder, is this why someone is saying that they need to resign from their job for health reasons? Because you just sound like an absolute piece of shit that did the wrong thing, doesn't want to admit that you did the wrong thing, and now that he's resigning, what is that going to do for any type of remedial measures for people? Is he going to be held account for his failure to act? Likely no. And that's the continual problem we see when so many of these convenient things happen of someone that's making these decisions all of a sudden resigns so that they can't be held to account. It's just so ridiculous. Andaya said that the agency's internal protocol for wildfires is to use both wireless emergency text alerts sent to cell phones and the emergency alert system, which sends alerts to television and radio. Now, what do you do when those text alerts are not working because the cell towers went down? Think with your brains. The fact that the cell service was down means that you need to take every possible measure that you can possibly take, which means you need to turn on the goddamn sirens. And the fact that they didn't, it's adding to those questions of, do you really care about these people? Did you really want to save these people? Did you really want to save this area? Because there are so many bits of evidence showing that they did not. He continues, in a wildland fire incident, the siren system has not been used either in Maui or in other jurisdictions around the state. Immediately following the disaster, county officials said the siren would have saved lives and that the emergency response system could have been taken offline by wind. Hawaii Governor Josh Green told CBS News last week he has launched an investigation handled by the state attorney general into Maui County's emergency response before, during, and after the fire, including why the sirens did not go off. Well, I'm sure we can, look forward to a great investigation being done by the state attorney general. We're just really looking forward to that. Well done, thorough investigation. In the wake of the emergency siren controversy, Andaya's qualifications have been called into question. Yeah, no shit. The fact that locals were expecting to hear sirens, I had in my previous video, people were saying there's no sirens. Where are the sirens? Why don't we hear the sirens? People were expecting to hear this if it was a serious emergency requiring them to evacuate. And then another thing to remember in my previous video on Lahaina is the fact that once people were evacuating, there was police officers that were restricting people from moving. They blocked the road. Why would you do that? Why? CBS News asked Andaya about his qualifications during Wednesday's news conference. According to local news site Maui Now, he had no background in disaster response before taking the position. The site reported in 2017 that he was hired over 40 other qualified applicants. That is really interesting. He had no background in disaster response before taking the position. And mind you, this position is the Emergency Management Agency Administrator. How can you have zero preparedness background when you work for the Emergency Management Agency as the administrator? Make it make sense, people. Make it make frickin' sense. He said, to say that I'm not qualified, I think, is incorrect. Well, you can think that, sir. One wrong man can always find a friend. I went through a very arduous process. I was vetted. I took a civil service exam. I was interviewed by seasoned emergency managers. I mean, just because you take a civil service exam doesn't mean you know what you're doing. Just because you were vetted doesn't mean that you know what you're doing. Because it's the people vetting you that are going to want you. They're going to want you to be just like them. And this is a whole other conversation when it comes to job qualifications, experience, and blind hiring and things like that. And people actually having the experience that they should have when they don't. This is absolutely incredible information. So it's not surprising that following this damning statement that he said of, I do not regret sounding the sirens, that he is now leaving for health reasons, effective immediately. It's so convenient, isn't it? It's so freaking convenient. Shame on you, Herman and Andaya. You have a lot to answer for, as well as every other person that's an official on Hawaii Island. Absolutely devastating.